Hello, everyone. Welcome to Wingcat Sports, and we're going to do a season overview for the Red Wings. Regrettably missing the playoffs, but not a bad year overall.
No, I mean, I guess during the year you're going to get a little upset. I probably was more upset um, after that last game. It's so heartbreaking. They have improved through Steve Eiserman's regime in every category, basically, except for goals being let up. Every other thing that they have improved dramatically at. This is a slow process. I mean, I'm as impatient as anybody. I've criticized Steve Eiserman, but when you really step back and you look at the mountain this guy has to climb, in the conference he has to climb, you don't have eight. You're not competing for 8 playoff spots. You're really only competing for two. When I look at it, you're not going to be in the top three in this division. You're just not for the foreseeable future. You're not going to be ahead of Toronto.
It's going to be difficult.
You're not going to be ahead of Boston. You're not going to be ahead of Florida.
I think
Get it through your heads. We're vying for those final two wild card spots. You might pass Tampa Bay because they're kind of starting to waver. The other three they're there. They're in stone. And unless something major happens to their roster, I just don't see us breaking that anytime soon. So you got to be a little realistic. We improved 11 points this year over last year.
Yep, you had a winning record, more than 40 wins.
I said 90 points, and they got 91. I honestly think if they had any, just a few more wins in March, they had such an abysmal March. They had beaten Arizona. If they had beaten Washington,
So
they could have been a 100-point team.
Yep, and like I said, I covered it when I did my own video earlier this week. That it wasn't even the 7-game losing streak that killed you. You just had to beat Washington.
Right. I mean,
if you would have beat Washington in that last week, you would have made the playoffs, but you didn't.
There are so many scenarios.
Doesn't allow you to make the playoffs. But overall, you can't be upset with how the season fully ended. You had a great last week. It showed you had fight. You can do what you need to do to win. And I know
all those people saying Lalonde lost his team. That last week showed that's totally false.
Yeah, they had fight. I mean, we didn't know until literally you played to the last second. You were in contention literally to the last second.
I mean, you can't ask for more than that in entertainment. Yeah, like I said, a lot of heartbreak. I don't get it. They got to figure out what happened in March. I know Larkin was out hurt, but that can't be the only reason. The flu. They just had an abysmal month of hockey.
Other things to think about overall is who you're going to keep. I know I kind of also went over that in the last video, but who you keeping? I mean, Raymond and Sider are both restricted free agents. They're going to get their contracts. They're going to get paid.
Yeah, I don't. Anyone thinking that this team's going to go hog wild in free agency is crazy.
No,
they're not. And you're going to have basically the same team, but you're going to have some changes.
So
you're going to have. I think you're going to have Edvinsson for an entire year. You're going to have a better defensive group. You may see a few more forwards brought up. I do think he may pick up one or two free agents, maybe.
But that depends on what happens with the team in general. Because when you think about it, there isn't a lot to look at fully. Who's going to be up and who's not. There's a couple guys on the back end. Your four main free agents are Patrick Kane, Daniel Sprong, Christian Fisher, five really, David Perron, and Shane Gostisbehere.
I mean, you're going to be right. It's going to be about re-signing more than it is going after other free agents.
The other issue is with how the whole entire lineup is put out. You have Jonathan Berggren and Albert Johansson both needing to be up next year, or else they're going to hit waivers.
Right.
Well, and apparently, I don't know much about Johansson, but apparently he is ready to be on the roster, and he's going to get picked up on waivers if you let him go.
Right. So you can't do that. So to me, signing Kane, unless that guy wants to come in for extremely cheap, I would not. I would let him go. I mean, thank you for a fun season, but I'd rather see Jonathan Berggren come up and see what he can do.
Well, even that, if you can get depending on who you want to let go, I don't think you need that veteran leadership of David Perron. I think he played well.
Right.
But I don't think you need to re-sign him. You can get younger. You can put Bergeron on the roster in that case. And plus, if you're looking for the veteran leadership and a more productive player, you got to think, would you rather sign Perron or Kane?
I think their veteran leadership is here. I think it's Dylan Larkin. How much more leadership can you get? When he was out, you played like shit. You played like garbage. That guy carried you for most of
he did
when he was in the lineup.
But
that's why I feel that's the only thing that makes me mad is that you couldn't, come together for a few games and beat some really bad teams for Dylan Larkin. Yep. He had to play his butt off to get you to 90,
including some of those game tying goals, and then Raymond playing his butt off at the end of the year.
I mean, but it's and like I said, I don't think we need that veteran leadership as far as like the Kane and with.
But the production, you think how you think if Kane could play like he did now?
Do you think that guy will last a full season?
I'm just saying if he could play,
he was slow,
then that is the reason why he had some of those stick penalties.
Right, he was
tripping,
slow.
those slashings.
And that's not. I mean, he played. When I look back, I thought he came in like in December or January. He's been playing with us since November.
Well, he still, even though he was slow at times, he was averaging a point a game.
Right. Oh, his hands are still amazing. He can pass the puck as well as anybody. He can thread the needle on breakaways. The guy's usually money. His hands are still amazing, but he is a defensive liability out there. He is a floater.
He had a lot of penalties at the end of the year that hurt you, and that's the only thing. There's upside if they re-sign him, and there's downside. I wouldn't be upset either way, as long as it's not too much money. And it's all about the money.
Like I said, I'd like to see Perron and Kane go. We need some more speed.
So you think so you would take, I know you said earlier that you would take Daniel Sprong back. You would re-sign Sprong.
Right.
What about Christian Fischer? Would you re-sign Christian Fischer?
I would re-sign Christian Fischer. He's a good player.
He didn't play bad. I mean, I would
re-sign him.
He played how he had to play. He wasn't a top scorer, but he played how he had to play. He did well.
Right.
He always was there for setups. He was always there creating plays. He just never really got the points off those plays. Another player that we haven't gone into because it's my personal opinion of the weak point of the team. Straight up defense, Shane Gostisbehere. Would you bring him back?
The rumor is Yzerman likes him. I like Ghost. I think he's just, you know what you got with him. Like I said, it's, again, a lot of defensive liabilities at times. But, I mean, he is good on the power play. And
he saved the season. He saved the season great with that grab.
I mean, so many things factored in. I mean, but he was one of the people to save the season. And
I've seen that play live too.
My God. I think he wants to be part of this, and that's a big part too. I don't know. It's what, like you were saying earlier. It's what can these guys fit in? You have to sign Cedar. You have to sign Raymond.
So the issue
with
the defense without Gostisbehere, there's 7 right now. Seeing as you probably had to bring up Evanson, and you actually there's 8 because you have to have Johansson on the team. If you're going to have Evanson on the team.
You release Hall, release Petrie.
The idea is that they're going to try to trade Hall and probably have to retain some of that contract because you barely played him at the end of the year. He has a no trade clause, so he can really screw your team over regardless. But you're going to have to figure out what team's going to take him as their 7th defenseman. Petrie, cut him, and then you can have both. You sign Gostisbehere, you can have the other 2 on the team.
Right.
And you're fine.
Right.
You cut 2, you bring the 2 up, and you're younger, you're probably faster. The only issue is how is Wallman going to play? Probably not teamed up with Seider because you're probably going to team up Seider and Evanson.
You think so?
I think if you kept Gostisbehere, it's probably going to go Seider and Evanson, Mata and Gostisbehere again, and then your last 2 are going to be Wallman and whoever else they have playing. Probably.
Right.
Is how that defensive pairing is going to go. But we have to see exactly what they do defense-wise. Defense needs to be worked on whole team-wise for next year. They need to fix the defense.
Right.
Because a lot of people...
I think they need to sign a defense.
A lot of people also, though, blame the goaltending. Which, in my opinion, I was happy with both Reimer and Laine.
Their goaltending is on the way.
Is not what is Leinen and Reimer the top of the goaltending market? No, it's not. But I think they played well enough. Reimer played real well throughout the year. He had his bad games, but he played well. Same thing with Leinen. He played real well and had his bad games. Cut Husso, because I don't think Husso is worthy of keeping on this team. He was hurt basically the whole year. I would cut him, save as much money as you do off of that, and put that money towards something else. You still have Leinen next year. Re-sign Reimer for another year.
You re-sign Reimer.
For a year. For a year. Because he played well. I would take him.
He would be. He's going to be 37.
I would not be upset if they did re-sign him. I wouldn't be upset if they didn't. As long as they replace him appropriately. Don't get a worse goaltender than how he played this year.
Because I think our goaltending is on the way. It's just...
Your other option, if you don't want to re-sign someone, bring up Kosa and make him the backup. That's the only other thing I say. And that might be risky.
He needs a season where he's the main guy down there.
Wasn't he this year?
I think he needs it.
Wasn't he the main guy down there this year?
Was he?
Pretty sure.
I didn't think he was, but I thought he would share duties pretty much. But if you're saying he was, okay.
I'm not 100% sure, but regardless, if you want him to get...
he's going to be what, 21?
He's, I believe, around there.
It's up to, like I said, if they think this guy's ready to take over, I'm all for that. But that's,
I don't think they know that. I don't think they need to immediately have him take over, but I think they need to bring him up as a backup role for 1 year, maybe 2, depending on how well he plays. Right. And then let him do his thing. Because the other guy who I feel a lot more confident about because of how he's doing in juniors is Augustine. He won the juniors championship. He's doing really well at Michigan State. I think he might have a brighter future than Kosa.
Possibly.
But we will see exactly what happens along with all of that, though. But I think the goaltending is not as major of an issue as long as you don't get worse. Because right now you really only have one good goaltender on the team. I don't consider Husso good after being injured a whole year. He's going to struggle.
Right. You know that this is going to... Next year is... you certainly, I think we realize we have to make the playoffs next year.
He is. Iserman will be on the hot seat if we do not make the playoffs next year. He should be on the hot seat now, in my opinion.
The people already, like I said, you have. Like I said, I personally feel that 6 or 7 of these seeds are already wrapped up. So you have, basically 12 teams. Or whatever, 12 teams vying for that final 2.
Yep.
Wild card spots.
Basically, how it ended.
We're one of the 12, and they're not going away. They're not going to not get better. Everybody's getting better.
New Jersey likely is going to be better next year, and they were 10 points less than us. Buffalo, they got hot at the end of the year. They might be better next year, even though we thought they'd be good this year. Ottawa, we thought they would be good. And they ended up not playing well. Who knows if they can make a turnaround? Philadelphia, no one expected them to be good this year, and they barely missed the playoffs. Pittsburgh, they're an old team. If they can get some young talent on there, they might play better.
Right.
Pittsburgh's average age is 35.
Right. They're old.
And they almost made the playoffs.
And I would do anything. I wanted it so bad at the trade deadline.
Crosby.
I would love to.
We're not going to get Crosby. But teams that made the play, like our division is pretty locked up, like you said. It's going to be difficult to get past Toronto, Boston, and Florida.
If we had gotten Crosby, is there any doubt we would have made the playoffs? You had a freaking...
Crosby and Kane?
You would have had Crosby, Kane, Larkin, DeBrincat on the power play with freaking Sider back there, and Ghost. And man, that would have been just unbelievable.
But even other teams you got to think about. Washington, no one expected them to be decent, and they sucked this year and still made the playoffs.
Right. They sucked.
They only beat us because of regulation wins. I feel
they're winning right now. I don't know how.
They are 1-0, but regulation wins is so. That is another topic for another day on the NHL tiebreakers and what should be considered more important. Is wins overall more important or regulation wins more important? That is the topic of discussion when we eventually get to that, because that's the only reason they beat us out. We won more games than them, but they won more games in regulation than us.
Right.
So it overall cancel each other out. Basically saying if we would have done the exact same thing as them and just lost twice more in overtime, we would have been fine.
True.
But what do I know? Oh, Rangers scored. We can just look at that tie game. They're not winning anymore. But it's going to be an interesting offseason, I think, to see what Yzerman ends up fully doing. With all that being said, though, if you like what you see, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think about the season down in the comments. Until next time, hope to see everybody soon.